Hi, Mike King, realnewsandhistory.com, and today's piece I titled, Are Bathhouse Barry and Killary Clinton About to Be Indicted? Now, I know we've been hearing this for a long time, but there is a grand jury convening in Miami. Something's going on down there, so I felt that we should report on this. Of course, this is all play acted. Hillary Clinton, all these characters, they've been taken out, executed. For some reason, I think Obama's being kept alive in order to watch this somewhere. I don't know. I just sensed that in my gut. But we're awaiting the great replay, which will trigger the public reenactment of this storm. And my piece in my feature column, the Anti-New York Times, which I will send to you in your mailbox regularly if you sign up below. You could either buy me a coffee, it's in the link below, or purchase the for $29 the 35 book and booklet PDF package, so you'll get these articles ahead of time. But I based my piece on a New York Times story, and this is the paper of record, and you're hearing this now in the regular media about something going on down in Miami. The New York Times story is titled, U.S. Installs a Trump Loyalist to Lead Grand Jury Conspiracy Case into Trump's Foes. A former lawyer for President Trump's campaign, Joseph DeGenova, is said to be planning to split time between Miami and Fort Pierce, where a grand jury overseen by a Trump-favored judge sits. So that's the storyline. There's a grand jury, and they're looking into the Russia FISA treason hoax, which was the early attempt to overthrow Trump. And that was treason, and that's very serious, and it involves some big names. So that's why this is significant. Let's see what happens. But I'm going to read to you my analysis, and as always, supplemented by additional commentary. Show you some pictures. Okay. Weary from waiting and waiting and waiting for the long-promised initial wave of big-name arrests on replay, the editorial board of the Anti-New York Times, that's me, after a recent meeting between myself, and I, decided to shift focus from a 3-to-1 news to history ratio back to about a 1-to-1 split. And historically, that's kind of the way I used to do things at my website. One history article weaved in with the news, and then one news article, about 1-and-1. But during the age of Q, it's been mostly news. But I'm just kind of backing off because there's not a whole lot of new stuff to report on until this storm happens. All the variables are out there with the Epstein and the Iran war, and now you got this going on in Florida. So at this point, until there's a major false flag or a major arrest, I'm going to be splitting my time between doing historical pieces and news items. But this is a news item that I wanted to cover, and I will explain why I felt it was important. The intention of the contemplated editorial shift is not about blackpilling, of course, but rather for mental health reasons. A wake me up when the public shitstorm actually starts approach was deemed less taxing on the spirit and not as boring. But at the risk of being strung along and rug pulled yet again, this selected story seems to be the beginning of the promised beginning of the climactic sequence, if that makes any sense. This bit of scripted theater had to be covered. And I'm quoting now from the New York Times, what I call the Q York Times now. Quote, as a sprawling inquiry expands into whether former federal officials committed crimes in investigating President Trump, two unusual factors could ease the way toward securing the indictments he craves. A former lawyer for Mr. Trump's campaign, Joseph DeGenova, has been selected to lead the inquiry after a career prosecutor in Miami was removed from that post this week, a senior law enforcement official said on Saturday. So it's interesting. You see the spin they're putting on it? That is Trump going after his enemies. Now, why would they do that? Because this is the Q York Times. So why is the Q operation putting a negative spin on it already? I don't know. Maybe when they do start arresting these people, the idea is to trigger the left. maybe have some kind of conflict. And I don't know. And certainly with Trump's declining popularity, this is not a good look if you start indicting Hillary and Obama. So we'll have to see where it goes. All right? But that's going to be the spin on this, that Trump is just out for revenge. Okay, continued. Now, in comparison to matters such as the wag the dog war with Iran, the ongoing Epstein cover-up, which is play-acted, the ongoing cover-up, also play-acted, of the fake killing of Charlie Kirk, what is so special about a grand jury proceeding about the Russia frame-up hoax of 2016 and 2017? That happened nearly a decade ago, and the bad actors are long out of office anyway. Well, the significance is twofold. Number one, Obongo, Killary, Biden, Loretta Lynch, John Brennan, and many other high-level people, both domestic and foreign, engineered the treasonous coup attempt against the new president, who they referred to as, quote, Putin's puppet, based upon maliciously manufactured false data. This is the treasonous scandal which, we are certain, got John McStain executed for his role in personally walking the fake British dossier, a report about Trump being blackmailed by the Russians was all fake, paid for by the Clinton campaign, to the FBI. Indictments and arrests of such magnitude would indeed send serious wake-up shockwaves reverberating throughout the overlapping kingdoms of normiedom and libtardia. So you see, the first arrests got to be big people, just to get people to say, whoa. And who fits that category? Really only two. Three. Obama, Hillary, and Biden being a former president. And they were all deeply involved in the FISA-gate coup attempt, which was treason. So that is a big deal if they get perp-walked. But secondly, and even more importantly, this is the most important reason why I'm cautiously excited about this development, is this. More importantly, the Q posts of years gone by clearly and frequently told us that the coup attempt of 2017, aka FISA-gate, would be the marker to look for as the start, the lead-in to a long sequence of rapid booms which would follow. And those of you who followed my series, my 25-part series on the 5,000 Q posts, or about an hour each, if you haven't yet, go to my Rumble channel, or you could click to my Rumble channel right from the front page of my website, realnewsandhistory.com, and click on that file and watch that series in sequential order, all 25 episodes, review of the Q post. If you watch those, or if you've been following Q originally, you know that Q repeatedly told us that it's going to start with FISA-gate, and then everything will flow from there. That's the second reason why this is important. So it's big name players, and it's the appetizer. It's quite an appetizer it is for all the really nasty, horrible scandals to come afterwards. So that is why, like poor old Charlie Brown, the editorial board is cautiously optimistic and mildly excited about what's brewing down in Florida. And I made that analogy. You remember the Charlie Brown Peanuts cartoon? Lucy would always promise Charlie Brown that she's not going to pull the ball away. Come kick it. I'll hold it for you. I promise. I promise. And he keeps falling for it. He kicks it and he flips over. I mean, that's not what the Q operation is doing to us. But let's face it. How many times in the last few years we thought something was imminent? We've been hearing about this song and dance forever now. So, it's like I said, it's not about blackpilling, but you just wonder when it's going to happen. This month, next year, 2 years. At this point, it can't go crazy. Just when it happens, but we're keeping an eye on it. So, let's look at some pictures here. Here's Joe DiGenova, Trump ally, and he's going to be involved with the grand jury case. And again, that's all scripted, play acted, but nonetheless, for purposes of interpreting the movie, it's a good sign. McCain, he was executed earlier. That was no brain cancer. They had to get rid of him, and he was a key player in the Russia hoax, as was Hillary Clinton. Oh, she was in the news just today. Did you see that? Hillary Bill congratulating Chelsea Clinton for finishing the Boston Marathon. That's the setup just to keep them in the news. They're all gone. They're all out of the picture. They ain't no Boston Marathon. They're dead. Chelsea Clinton, when was she a marathon runner? She's got to be pushing 50 now. And she completed a marathon. That's just to keep their names out there. Obama's been out there in the public eye too. So that's good. You keep their names kind of fresh for when the shit hits the fan. There's Bathhouse Barry and Biden deeply involved in orchestrating the Russia hoax. And again, just in a nutshell, to summarize that, the Clinton campaign, they wanted to make sure they could get rid of Trump if he did get elected. So Clinton campaign paid an independent firm, I forget what the name of it was, they do opposition research, and they went out and hired a British spy, and the British spy came back and said, oh, the Russians have a file on Trump with prostitutes in Moscow, and he's being blackmailed, etc. It's all fake. It was all manufactured. This was a treasonous coup attempt. And then McCain got a hold of the file. He walks it to the FBI. And then the story leaks out to the media. And then they use the media reports as a justification to get an illegal FISA warrant to spy on Trump and other people. Really serious criminality. And it's treason, straight up treason. It's a major scandal. Nonetheless, relative to the other stuff, it's nothing. Okay? Now I'm going to read you a couple Q posts because the story is so important. And Q says this repeatedly. I mean, first of all, he refers to FISA, I don't know, 100 times in his Q posts. This is one of the images FISAgate Q keeps posting. So that is one of the underlying foundational themes of Q, along with Epstein Island and Clinton Foundation. Keeps going back to FISAgate, FISAgate, FISAgate. And we were told to look for the exposure of FISAgate will be the beginning of the story. Q Post 3850, February 10th, 2020. Actually, let me go in order. I'm going to read you one from 2019. And this is just two out of many that kind of say the same thing. Q Post 3125, March of 2019. The attempted coup, in brackets, treason, all caps, opens the public door. Not the private door, the public door. So it's telling you right here, this is going to be a show for the public. It opens the public door to more serious ... The pill must be easy to swallow. The lead-in, all caps. In other words, relative to everything else, this is something that's easy to swallow, easy to understand. Okay, the Russia hoax. And then from there, you get to the serious stuff, which makes sense. You can't go like right away to satanic child torture and 9/11. No, but you do have to start with something shocking and serious. And this is serious. It's treason, and it's the biggest name people in the country are going down. And that's the door opener, the lead-in. The public, again, public in all caps, must be prepared for what is about to come. And then in all caps, the Clinton Foundation. So that's why this is important. You said this specifically on several occasions, that this will be the main prep work for the public. The exposure of the Russia hoax will be the lead-in. In Q Post 3850, February 2020, did Mueller, not a fake Mueller investigation, I call that fake because Mueller was a white hat. They just killed off his character, so he doesn't have to get in trouble, but that was all part of the Q operation. Because the Mueller investigation is how they got all of this criminal data on these bad people. So it asks, did Mueller open the door to Ukraine? Yes, it did. And there's a whole lot of nasty stuff went on in Ukraine. Massive corruption, massive kickbacks, child sex trafficking, right? Biological weapon, everything comes out of Ukraine. Did Mueller open the door to FISA? How do you introduce evidence legally? So he's telling you right there that this is what the whole Mueller report was about. And what did Mueller report, what was that originally convened for? The purpose of investigating if Trump had ties to Russia or if Russia interfered in the election. So, I continue here. As serious as FISA-gate is, Q himself made it clear that it would then lead to, quote, more serious stuff. In particular, the Clinton Foundation, in all caps. Clinton Foundation, what are they involved in? Well, yeah, extreme corruption and kickback and bribery, of course. But the trafficking of children in the shipping containers, evergreen shipping container, that's Hillary Clinton's self-chosen Secret Service code name, was Evergreen. She kidnaps children. She tortures children. You had the Wiener laptop. I mean, the stuff that will really shock people. And, you know, normies, they're totally desensitized to everything. Nothing really shocks a normie. But something like this, and Q said this specifically, this is what is needed to unite humanity. You have to get full exposure of the torture and murder and killing of children, and that links into Epstein and Israel. The whole shebang blows up. And we were told, again, it will start with the exposure of FISA-gate, which is going on in Miami right now. That's what this New York Times A-section story is all about. And then we get to the other stuff after that comes out. Okay, exposure of the Clinton Foundation not only entails the exposure of a level of financial corruption that would have made the Yeltsin-era Russian mafia seem like pickpockets, but ultimately gets us to the Ukraine crime scene, child sex trafficking, shipping containers, Epstein Island, Satanism, etc. You can add cannibalism to that too, and all the Hollywood celebrities. To those of you who've been riding the Q train hard since its early days and with bated breath the whole time, the editorial board here, based upon personal experience, suggests taking it down a notch in order to refocus on things like personal health, finances, relationships, etc. But be ready to mount up and charge toward the sound of the guns at a moment's notice when and if the storm, replayed, is finally unleashed via the shock of the first arrests. Until it happens, the possibility that we won't actually get to see the promised replays of the mass arrests and executions remains just that, a promise. Trust the plan, but mind your health and personal inner world too. And I've said this repeatedly. There's always a chance that the script writers decided a long time ago, normies can't handle this stuff. There'll be a limited hangout, but we're not going to give them the truth about 9/11 and Hillary slicing a child's face off and stuff like that. Until that happens, it hasn't happened. So prepare yourself. That's why I say, you know, protect your mind and your mental health, because this is exhausting. It's been going on for years. I've been awake for over 30 years, and I've been following Q for like close to 9 years. It is exhausting, and it's important at this point. Everything is out there. It's just a matter, are they going to replay or are they not going to replay it? So just take the approach of, like I said, wake me up when somebody's arrested or there's a massive Israeli false flag. And then I'm ready to go, and I'm ready to go hard. Until that time, you know, take it easy. And but I will keep writing news stories if I see that it's an indication that we're getting close to something. And this is, I mean, the grand jury, they're scripting it, they're showing it, and they're preparing us for indictments. Unless they're jerking us around, I mean, it does seem like something's imminent. Next week, next month, I don't know. But just know this: the moment we hear about people like Brennan, and I suspect they'll start with like Brennan and then go up the ladder to Hillary and Biden and Obama. But when that happens, not only is that a shock in and of itself, but it's the beginning of the climax to come. So I'll keep an eye on it for you. If you enjoyed this broadcast and my work, every once in a while, buy me a cup of coffee. There's a link in my description box below, buymeacupofcoffee.com. And on that site, there's a little box you can click if you want to make it monthly. Greatly appreciated, because this is what helps me to advertise and spread my work about real news and history. Okay, and everything else is in the description box. If you don't have the PDF package, $29 for all 35 of my books and booklets, I suggest you get that. Have a look at freedomlawschool.org. That's in my description box as well. They'll show you how not to pay income taxes. And as always, ignore that character in the comments who's trying to sell some kind of Nasara Jasara, asking you to follow him. He's using my name. It's not me. The only thing you'll see from me is in the description box below. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you real soon. Thank you.